Persona 5 was one of the most popular RPGs released in the past 10 years, but developer Atlus wasn't happy with releasing just one successful game set in the Persona universe. After Persona 5 came Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 5 Strikers, Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth, and finally Persona 5 Tactica. With so many stories already set in the Persona universe, something different was needed to maintain the series' popularity, and Persona 5 Tactica is striving to be that something. It both hits and misses the mark though, and fans will undoubtedly be split on how effective it is in carrying on the Persona frenzy. Though set at the same time as Persona 5, Tactica doesn't follow the other game's story at all. Instead, it opts to forge a different path in a place both familiar and unfamiliar to fans of the original game. This new direction does breathe a bit of freshness into the game's more familiar tropes, but the new story beats won't make much sense to new fans who purchased Tactica as their first Persona game. All the familiar Phantom Thieves are present, with a few new ones to shake up the monotony, though they don't really stand out when viewed against the already eclectic cast of characters. They all take a backseat to the game's new mystery, and discovering what the truth is about the world feels both fresh and well-trodden at the same time. There will be some confusion, as Tactica asks the same questions as Persona 5, but some users will definitely be intrigued enough to discover the answers. Most players and fans will have to figure out how or if Persona fatigue is playing into their enjoyment of the game itself. Tactica does a good job of introducing new systems, but not everyone will enjoy the constrictions the changes force upon them. The height differentials are interesting, as they sometimes don't allow attacking enemies directly below or above the user's character, even if they're in the adjacent grid square. Unlike games such as Exium 2, there are stricter line-of-sight rules that come into play in Tactica. But the game is still set within the Persona 5 universe, and players who have spent countless hours within it may start to feel a bit of weariness with some characters' personalities. Some feel dialed up even more than they were during the normal Persona games, but the franchise has always been built around and on the strength of its characters. Luckily, the few new friends the group makes are more mellow in their presentation and antics. The background extras are forgettable though, and don't make much sense until the game has been dived into more. The catchy music of Persona 5 is in full effect in Tactica. Though it may be a small step down in quality when compared to P5, the beats and sounds of the Persona universe can still be found rocking throughout the game. The more mellow tunes found in the coffee house stand out, and apart from the constant faster battle music, both are well-placed and toe-tappingly fun to listen to. The voice acting falls into many of the same pros and cons, a small step below Persona 5's levels, but still well done, and it does a good job of keeping the dialogue entertaining. Along with the grid system, combat has changed in other ways as well. The ability to move around enemies feels like Persona 5 Tactica wanted to borrow a little piece from Persona 5 Strikers, but still keep its turn-style combat. This does allow players to easily gang up on enemies, but it also leaves characters open to counterattacks. The flow of combat moves back and forth with large swings in players' or enemies' favor. In higher difficulties, there can sometimes be a sense of unfairness with enemies' ability to land critical hits. And since that leads to an extra chance to attack, it can feel mildly to severely slanted in the enemy's favor. Still, most players playing on easier difficulties will feel pretty strong at first. This feeling does begin to dissipate after a few missions, as the variety of enemies is opened up and larger groups appear on the map. During some missions, players may find themselves attempting to avoid combat entirely in order to complete the level. It seems odd to be successful without fighting, especially in a Persona game. Persona 5 Tactica is a step in a different direction than previous games, and even with the fatigue from multiple Persona games, Settling in over the last few years, it still manages to tell an intriguing story, and it does nail the Alice in Wonderland vibe it sometimes feels like it's going for. A player's enjoyment may ultimately come down to how he or she feels about the character's new look and the game's more confined spaces in both combat, character skills, and personas alike. There is an enjoyable and interesting tale to be told in Persona 5 Tactica for those willing to join the Phantom Thieves once again. So what do you think about this game? Are you excited to play this game? Let us know in the comments section.